So we've been chipping away at the core here, peeling the core out for a couple hours, and right here is the mass step area, and by the discoloration you can see clearly right here that there was definitely moisture in here. I pulled a lot of this out by hand, not even having to use a chisel, and it just disintegrated in my hand. So as you can see, look how this is just, the moisture has been in here and just rotted this plywood. Your core should definitely not come out like a powder and this is why we're spending hundreds of hours, and we're gonna recore the sucky because she gonna be bulletproof. Dick and Dick would be proud.
So this area over here, we did as two pieces. If Robin scans over there, you can take a look. But I've puzzle pieced them together, so there's some kind of bond between them. Right here, you can see where I've made like a puzzle piece. And the reason I did that, I did it in two different. Basically, I put them down at two different times in order to get enough working time with the epoxy. So I wanted to have enough working time with each piece, and I didn't think I'd have enough time to mix enough epoxy to do that whole piece. Also, I felt that if I couldn't see the squeeze out, I wasn't comfortable with that. I wanted to see the squeeze out. So I felt that if I had a smaller piece, I could apply a nice even pressure to it, and I could see the squeeze out all the way around, and that way I know that I have good contact. And when you can, what I did afterwards as well, or even during the time I set this up, because I used a lot of bracing and a lot of weight, some blocks, some of the lead from the weight that was left over from the bilge. I put those pieces in and just trial fit it. You'll see in this area that it's a much denser sound to it. This is a little bit bouncier. This actually here is a fairly dense area too, actually. This is where the bulkhead is below it, but as you move away from the bulkhead, the sound changes. But it is consistent all over, and it's basically, I know I have good solid contact with the fiberglass skin below, and here very, very solid because the compression post is right below it. So that's all good. Today we're going to start cutting this area out over here, the opposite side, and we're going to put these two pieces in the next few days. But for today we're going to start cutting the core out on this side. Once that's done, it's on to the side decks. So,
which is still up in the air whether we're going to do all the side decks or not. We don't know if we should just focus on things that are 20% and over, or just do it all and be done with it and never have to worry about it again.
Yeah, I kind of bounce back and forth, but I think I'm going to come to the conclusion probably that what's the sense in doing the job, 80% and not doing the whole thing. If I do the whole thing, then I don't ever have to worry about water incursion with the Coosa. So, I mean, there are days like yesterday I was talking to Robin, I said, maybe we shouldn't even bother with the side decks. Maybe they're okay, because a lot of the areas I'm finding even on the up here are dry. The question is where are the wet spots, right? We don't really know. There was one under the mast step, but I don't know if you can see it a little bit here, where you can see that the plywood is actually delaminated there. So
it was downright rotten.
This is the question, right? Do you, when you're looking at it from the outside, you can't really tell what's beneath. If you leave it, you're kind of, leaving that question mark there. If you're taking it out, well, you may be doing work for nothing. But you know what? Again, doing a 90% job and not doing the rest of it doesn't seem to make sense when you're putting all that fiberglass and time all equates to money, right? So why do a 90% job when you can do a 100% job? I think I'm kind of making my own argument for myself as I'm talking about it.
What do you think? Just leave your comments below. We'll try to get back to each and every person.
By that time, the question will probably already be answered because we'll probably already have done most of it. But Yeah, we always like to hear people's input on what they think, whether they're going too far or not. But the thing is, if we're going to sail this thing, you know, across an ocean, you don't want to have these questions in your mind, right? We're going to have enough to worry about with worrying about our ability to sail this thing. To worry about the boat on top of the weather and other conditions just doesn't seem to make sense. Let's make it a 100% job. Let's do it right. Let's do it once, and let's be done with it. So after we finished filming a few minutes ago, we started working on this section of the deck and the core. And Robin said, let's stop and do some video, and so everybody can see what we're talking about, which I don't think we do enough of. But you can see that this is really, really done. You could actually feel the moisture in this. So let's just, you can see how it comes apart, but it's lost its strength. It's still wet. Now keep in mind, this boat's been covered up for 2 years now. It's been, you know, sitting here in the dry. So once this moisture gets into the deck, there's no way for it to get out. The only way for it to get out is for us to remove the core and repair the damage. Now putting the Coosa in should be a permanent repair to that, because apparently the Coosa doesn't absorb any moisture. So once we've done this, we basically have a solid fiberglass deck for the most part. I mean, there is some foam in that Coosa, but whatever they do to the Coosa, it doesn't absorb water. When we picked up the Coosa from the supplier, they said they put Coosa in the water for a period of, I think it was over a week.
Salt water.
Salt water. And no absorption whatsoever. When they checked it with a moisture meter, it was, you know, it was dry. After they dried it off on the exterior of it, it was as dry as the moment they put it in. So this stuff is it's night and day to plywood. I mean, you put a piece of plywood in water, and you know, how long does it take to absorb the moisture? So it's almost instantaneous. So this should be a permanent fix to this problem, and hopefully it has the added benefit of getting rid of all the crazing, which you can see once again is you know, here in the deck that was filled before. And apparently that was largely due to the thickness of the gel coat.
And you can see I marked this out before, and this was at least 30%, this whole area of the cabin top. And now we're actually finding, you can feel the moisture. It is wet. Again, it confirms our suspicion, you know, and Scott always makes sure he goes above and beyond. He saw the crazing. He wanted to find out why it was crazing.
But
here's
you
your
know,
answer, guys.
the crazing may be a separate issue. But regardless, you know, here we are. We're gonna take it down to basically to the fiberglass on the other side of the core, and eliminate any possibilities of having any moisture in the core, because we're taking it out. So it's just interesting what we're finding. I mean, when you walk on this deck, it feels solid. You know, some people say when they walk on the deck that, you know, it feels soft. We did walk on a few boats like that when we were looking at boats. One, we were actually afraid of going through the deck. It was that bad. So this deck didn't feel, and you know, the area that we haven't done, doesn't feel soft in any way. But seeing the crazing, I wanted to go the extra step. I wanted to see, as much as people say that it's due to the thickness of the gel coat, okay, well, let's get rid of the gel coat. Well, while we're doing that, let's recore it. So here we are, we're recoring it, and we are finding wet areas, and not just, you know, this is a very wet area. So we'll see what we find in other areas. I mean, the moisture meter, we didn't always have a great deal of faith in, and people say you can't trust the moisture meter 100%. So, you know, we saw the high moisture readings, and we have to find out what the problem is. So that's the solution, is to dig a little deeper and see what's going on. So this is what's going on. So we'll repair it, and we'll have basically a brand new boat.
So just so you know where this is at, this is just on the starboard side of the mast. Right here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts for our mast step. So it's literally right at the mast.
This was like right there.
So, would you trust it?
So just thought we'd show you guys a little bit of the action as we go. you can see that this area over here is quite wet. I'm just going to leave the camera running, and you guys can just sort of watch. I'll clip this down to the usual portion, but I just wanted to let you guys see how wet some of this area is. All right, that's really just, you can see it's all gone dark color. It's all wet. So we're just going to keep chipping away at this. Just coming out like
wet cardboard.
So, just so you can see again how much the plywood's falling apart, I'm just gonna do a little bit, just a momentary section here where we can really kind of, I'm just cutting it just to allow me to pull a section up. Alright, let's see with the bigger chisel what that looks like. I shouldn't be able to do that with the plywood. I can twist it. I can twist it into a, unbelievable. It's good news though, really, because I'd rather find this than not find it. At least we know we're doing this with reason.
It's kind of scary.
That's our wettest spot for sure so far.
And then we'll just hit this with the sander and get a little bit off.
Yeah, we'll let it dry a little bit too. Alright.
We're just about down to glass in multiple areas.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll see a little bit of the plywood left, but really we're right down to the glass. You can see it there. But yeah, that almost looks like mold.
It does. That's what I was thinking. Time to dig back further.
Yeah, so we're going to have to cut this back right to the edge. Same on the other side. We just try to find the edge of the fiberglass where the core ends. And that's it. We're going to sand all this, and then we'll prep our next piece of Coosa to go in. We'll let this dry out for a day or so at least, and wipe it down with some acetone, and then spread up a whole bunch of epoxy, thickened epoxy with silica, and then we'll make up some bracing to brace it so it's solidly against the inner skin of the deck, and that's how it goes. And it's I wouldn't say it's a slow process, but it just, there's a lot of area to cover. It's not a really quick process. It is kind of rewarding when you find out though that you're doing this for a good reason, that you can see that there's definitely issues. And I have to admit at times I did wonder if I was really doing the right thing peeling all this off, but now I'm 100% sure that was the right decision. Alright guys, we had an interesting find here. We found that as we move back towards the cockpit, about 16 inches in front of the cockpit, the glass becomes much, much thicker. The rest of the deck that we've uncovered so far is probably about a 1/16 of an inch thick in terms of the glass. This here is more like an 1/8 and more, maybe maybe 3/16 of an inch. Because what I've done here, if you look down, what I've done here is I've hit this with our gel plane. It's not called a gel plane. What's it called, Rob?
Gel peeler.
Gel peeler. The gel peeler, and I've peeled this area, so I've probably taken a little bit of the glass with it. So it may have been up to, you know, somewhere between 3/16 and 1/4 of an inch thick. The reason I'm so interested in this is because this has none of the crazing in it. There's no crazing in it at all. It is very dry. I'm not going to go any further back. But if you look where Robin's got the camera right now, you look over here, you can see, I don't know how close Robin can bring the camera. Are we rolling or what? Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you look over here, you'll see that there's this blue, which I guess is a gel coat, because it would have gone in, you know, you would have sprayed the mold with the gel coat and then put the glass on after that. So there's the blue, and then there's this thin layer of fiberglass, and then the core. Alright, so if you look here, you can see that transition between this area here, where there's maybe a 1/16 of an inch, to this area here, where it's more like 1/4 of an inch. You can really see how thick it is there. So, I'm kind of curious as to what I'm going to find when I get to the side decks. Are they the 1/16 of an inch that I'm seeing elsewhere? Or are they going to be like this section, just in front of the cockpit, where they're like 1/4 of an inch thick? What do you guys think?
Do you want to point out the fact of what the moisture readings dropped?
Oh yeah, the Robin's right. Are you still rolling, Robin? So yeah, the other thing is, when we got up to this point, when we were on the moisture meter was showing in the mid to low teens. I mean, even over here where we haven't peeled, you can see it's 15, 16. They're really, really low. In front of that,
let me see if I can get the camera to focus, because the light dark thing here. Then over here, where Scott's feet are, was in the low teens, mid to low teens. And then over here on the starboard side, you can kind of see there's a little bit left. And the numbers just, it drops.
now on the opposite side, we do have some high numbers, 30 plus, but that's in that thinner section where when we peel it, we're probably going to see that crazing again. Because I can actually see it. I don't know if you can pick it up on camera, Robin, but there's some areas where it's cracked and you can see it's displaced slightly. You know, you could actually feel the cracks in the deck along with seeing them. So there's some vertical displacement there. So, but none of that in this area back here. And I'm actually wondering about the side decks now. I have enough Coosa to do the side decks, but they are in the low teens in terms of the numbers. There are some exceptions to that, but I don't know. Anyway, the project continues, and just a little update on what we're finding.
Let me take you a tour of our moisture readings. I can kind of see them a little bit.
You might want to point out the moisture readings towards the bow or high again, or underneath that hatch actually.
So we're on the port side here.
Don't fall in the hole.
Waste pump area, again, low numbers. Still in the teens. Near one of the stanchions, it's 10 to 14. However, when we get up towards the bow, right in this area, again, is 30 and over. And forward of the windlass, it drops off again. We're at 10 to 12.
So the Coosa project continues. The cabin top is more or less done as far as installing the Coosa on the cabin top, and of course removing all the old core. What remains to be done here is to fill in around the Coosa pieces, the individual pieces, and around all of the hatches. Also to fill in the mast step. I've got to make a spot here for the thickened epoxy, so that the Coosa is, as much as the Coosa is waterproof, it's protected from any moisture. Same for any deck penetrations. I'll drill them out a little larger and fill that with thickened epoxy also. And then once that's done and we've got all this filled in, then it's time to glass it over, and then we can start on other parts of the deck, replacing the core or whatever is necessary. So here you can see I'm spreading some of the thickened epoxy. This epoxy is thickened with silica. It's thickened to about the thickness of, say, toothpaste. I have to mix it in small batches because of the isothermic reaction. If you mix it too large a batch, it just starts building too much heat, and then it just starts kicking off way too early. So I'm mixing small batches to lengthen the time, the working time that I would have. Once all the thickened epoxy is in place and troweled out, I'll put in my Coosa, cover it with a piece of plastic, and weight it all down. In addition to the weights, I've added some bracing. It's braced to the actual cover frame, so I've got some pressure applied that way. And then I just squeeze it gently to give it a little bit more pressure. Please like and subscribe, it really helps the channel. And now follow along on Sailing Reimagined on Facebook.